Japan and Samoa, folks, this weekend from Hokkaido, number 10 against number 12 in the world. We're going to go through some squads, some recent history and predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this one is going to go. It's also a bit of a World Cup preview in terms of the fact that these teams are both in the same pool at the World Cup, so that's a little bit of an insightful one into how the teams may or may not go. The most recent result is always an interesting one, especially if it is an actual recent result. The fact that it's going to be played so soon to the actual World Cup makes it a very, very spicy fixture. But yeah, it's also an interesting one in terms of the fact that like Japan seemed to have peaked at 2019. Like they were a bit of a darling in that competition, made the quarterfinals, had some bloody good results. But then since then have kind of struggled to maintain that level, especially up against the tier 1 teams, whereas Samoa kind of had an unexpected win in the Pacific Nations Cup last year and have just had some maybe better results than were predicted. So, yeah, it is going to be a genuine interesting one with, 12th against 10th in the world. We'll have to kind of wait and see how it plays out. For the Japanese, it's interesting to see, and seeing as they've played 2 games already, albeit one a Japanese 15 and one's the Japanese test team, in non-test games against the All Blacks 15, largely the same group of players playing in both of those games. So they should be kind of 2 games more warmed up than the Samoans, but as I said, the results didn't go that well. So they'll certainly need to be kind of picking up some momentum because they're starting with not a heck of a lot of the Japanese guys, but certainly they saw some promising performances. You got Inagaki Sakate and Gu, that is your front row. That is absolutely very stable. It's probably the front row they're going to go into the World Cup with, depending on how guys are available or not. James Moore starts alongside Amato Fakatava in the second row. Now, Fakatava did play for the Japanese 15 in their game against the All Blacks 15. So he has played in Japanese colours, but this will be his test debut. And then Cornelson, Jimeno, and Leach are your 6, 7, 8. So it's a pretty good back row for the Japanese. And Jimeno is captain for this one. Remember, he's had a stint in New Zealand as well with the Highlanders, and he definitely looked still one of the better players in the park. Like, he is a good player wherever he plays. And fingers crossed we get to see 80 minutes out of him. He's a bit of a jack of all trades in terms of his ability to cover the back row. They've played him, I think, at 6, 7, and 8. But yeah, we'll see how he goes for this one. He's certainly a good turnover merchant. You've got Nagare and Lee as your 9-10 combo, which is, I think, a little bit of a change. We saw Lee play, I feel like, a fair bit in 2022, and then he didn't play, at least in the first game against the All Blacks 15. Now he's back in, so a good test for him. And then Nakano and Riley is your 12-13 combo. Both kind of seasoned veterans, I guess, at this point in Japanese rugby. But not so much on the wings. You have Nakabula, who is one of the guys who played for the Japanese 15. So kind of like Fakatawa, he'll be getting his proper test debut in this game. On the left wing, Matsushima is a right wing rather than fullback for this one. So maybe expect him to do a little bit of the kicking to support Yamanaka, who is at fullback. Bench-wise, Horia, Miller, and Kakinaga. That's your front row replacements. Pretty steady. Kakinaga was another guy who was in action earlier in the month. Hilu and Fukui are your 19 and 20, your forward replacements. So Shota Fukui is one of the guys who I didn't know a heck of a lot about going into the Japanese 15 game, but he looked pretty solid, man. He looks like a pretty good tackling machine, kind of breakdown threat player. So good luck to him on his test debut if he gets on from the bench. And then Saito Matsuda and Tomoki Osada will also be getting his debut if he comes off the bench in the 23 jumper. For Samoa, they have certainly brought in a few veterans who've played international rugby elsewhere. They got Jordan Lay, Tolai, and Alo Emili are your front rowers. Paul Alo Emili is your... Is it Emil or Emili? They always called him Emil back when he was in Super Rugby. He's the captain, and he's your tight head, so it'll be interesting to see how many minutes he plays. He's going to have his work cut out for him because Inagaki is a pretty good scrummager, even if he's getting on. He's played the last World Cup really well. They've got Ala Nuitse and Michael Curry at 4 and 5, so that's your lock and duo. Michael Curry, in terms of what he's been doing at Moana Pacifica level, I think has looked pretty good. Like in a team which is mainly dominated in standout performances by the backs, I feel like Michael Curry has been one of the kind of standout forwards for them. Talani Siu, Alamana Mutunga, and So'otala Fa'aso is your number 8. He is on debut. So, yeah, Talani Siu is a good player. We remember him from Chiefs days. Certainly real big physical presence and, pretty busy around the park. Mutunga from Moana Pacifica is another one who's kind of impressed, although I don't think maybe quite as much as Curry, but I'm a little bit biased. And then Fa'aso is been playing rugby in the Premiership, but I don't remember seeing him that much. He didn't kind of stand out to me in any kind of specific way, but I'll be keeping an eye on him certainly this weekend. Tomateni and Leali'ifano, that is your 9-10 combo. So Leali'ifano will be getting his debut in Samoan colours, so congratulations to him. And he's got a Moana Pacifica teammate in him in Tomateni, so that's a pretty useful combo to have. Like, in terms of the Moana Pacifica representation, I feel like Samoa leads the way. Paia'awa and Sotini are your 12-13 combos. So that's a couple of guys who've been playing the rugby in France. And then, I like Duncan Paia'awa's ability to play make, so certainly he'll be helpful alongside Leali'ifano as well, although I haven't seen him play for a long time. I'm assuming he's pretty much the same player though. And then former Chiefs guard Samoa Manu is on the left wing, Formai is on the right wing, and Danny Tawala on at fullback. So, and Formai and Tawala, again, another kind of couple of Moana Pacifica players. So the team cohesion in terms of the guys who play for Moana Pacifica should be pretty high. Niuia Tuimonga and Charlie Faumuina are your forward replacements. So will Faumuina captain the side when he comes on for his Samoan debut? Not sure, but he's going to be replacing the captain when he comes on. We've also got Miracle Failangi in the 20 jumper getting his Samoan debut. He has been, for mine, the absolute find of the recruiting drive for Moana Pacifica in 2023. He was fantastic, so I'm pleased for him. And then you've also got another guy, Martini Talapusi. He is in the 22 jumper. I think I've seen him play in the MLR. And Ed Fido is there in 23. In the MLR, he genuinely looks too good to be playing in that league. He is a dominant physical presence. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Certainly a few new faces for me on both sides, but I look forward to seeing how they go. As I said, both these sides are in Pool D, and the last time at the World Cup they were also in the same pool. It was 38-19 to Japan, so it was a pretty comfortable one for Japan, but as I said, they were really good in 2019. I think performed above many people's expectations. Of the last 5 games, Japan win 3, Samoa win 2. But the 2 Samoan wins are 2012 and 2011. So we're talking a long time ago, and that's probably about the time that the two sides maybe started kind of switching places. That 2012 game, Japan scored late and could have won it if they'd kicked their conversion, but they missed it. So, yeah, that's a wee way ago now. It's like over 10 years ago, but still. The bookies have got Japan by 15 points for this one, whereas the Rugby Forecast algorithm goes a lot more conservative, saying by just 4. The average score across the last 5 is 28-20 to Japan, so it's an 8-point average, but remembering some of those games are more than a decade old, so whether you take that into account kind of remains to be seen. Is on Hokkaido, so up in the north of Japan, which will be something a bit different, hopefully not too hot up in Hokkaido. I'm not sure how hot it gets up there in summer. 2:50 local kickoff. I think that's like 5:50 for those of us in New Zealand. But check your local broadcaster for whether they're covering this one and what the times are and whatnot for the broadcast. But yeah, 10 and 12 in the world. I feel like a Samoan side who have been tracking pretty well up against the Japanese side who is under a little bit of pressure. But at home, Japan will certainly be favourites, like I mentioned. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.